recorded from a secret location in the city that moves mountains.
Greetings.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick something. I am all out of bubblegum, baby.
How's it going today, Dirty Dan?
It's going pretty well. How about you, sir?
I am doing good. Episode 50 is the episode that we recorded last Sunday, and had my mother in it. And
Yes,
she
that poor
was
woman.
still talking about that today, asking, did she do good? I said, you did great. And she's like, well, those people that were with you, that man's voice was really nice. And take that as a compliment because she's never said that before.
Well, it's just Dirty Dan's angelic voice.
So I'm going to have to find the most hideous picture and text her and be like, hey, this is Dirty Dan. No matter
just send her a picture of the hey, you guys.
You know, and I was going to mention this on the podcast show on Sunday and I actually forgot. There was a meme several years ago that said that she had shared, and it said, please pray for this little girl. She has a deformity on her face, and the doctors are going to try to fix it with surgery. And is the meme of the little kid that has punched the hole in that piece of ham on her face.
God.
And my mom thought that was real. She thought that was real.
Your mom's a really, really nice lady.
Yeah. Oh, how's your week been going, my friend?
It's been going like that. I'm wondering where my carrier pigeon is.
Well,
he never came back.
yeah. She's probably got it in a cage somewhere.
Is the cookie factory slower for you this week, buddy?
Oh, yeah. So far, it's not been too bad.
Well, that's good.
So,
Knock on some wood. It stays that way.
yes, come in. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That was me knocking on wood. How about
I didn't see
you?
your hands move.
Oh, what? They did. So, your week's been going good so far?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it sure has been.
Well, we didn't get to some emails last week. As a matter of fact, we had 1, 2, 3. Was it 3 or 4? 4 left over.
We had quite a few
From last week. We read those on episode 50, and we're going to read them again just so the people that took the time to write in, we're going to make sure those emails get heard. Dirty
Since
Dan?
some of them did find us from the radio show.
Yes. And Dirty Dan, we will start off with you, my friend.
All right, the first one's from Kenneth. It says, hello, my name is Kenneth, and this is my first time writing in. A friend of mine suggested your show to me. I'm really glad that they did. It's really good, and I enjoy it a lot. What are your thoughts on the recent increase in UFO sightings? I think when the world shut down last year, that forced more people outside in their backyards. Things they would normally look over, they now noticed. Do you think the government shut down things in hopes to get an increase in sightings? Thanks for taking my time to read my email. I'll listen for your answer. Goose, what do you think?
Thank you very much, Kenneth, for writing in. I think Kenneth is right. I think that last year when people were, confined to their homes and their backyards or front yards, that they didn't, they binged on Netflix all they could. And when they wanted a little fresh air, no matter what time of day or night that was, they went out and they were more receptive. They were paying more attention. So naturally, they spotted more. Do I think the government wants... do I think they did the shutdown in hopes of increasing the sightings? No, I don't. I don't think the government will ever admit that UFOs or other aliens or species or time travel or portals or other dimensions, I don't think they'll ever admit that until they absolutely have to. What about you, Dirty Dan?
Well, first, I want to touch on something you said about binging. Did you watch a certain show yet there, Goose?
No, I have not watched it yet, my friend. I'm sorry. Tomorrow, I don't think I have to do any show interviews for other shows or for our show, and I should be free tomorrow to watch it. And I will.
No, you're not gonna.
No, seriously, brother. I have plans to watch it. And Dirty Dan, You've watched it 4 times now, and Dirty Dan is talking about the new Demi Lovato show that is on the Peacock network. Tell us a little bit about that. Tell our radio audience a little bit about Miss Demi Lovato and your infatuation with her.
So Goose is now talking out of his keister, and my infatuation with Demi Lovato. Not at all the case. In fact, thankfully, the show only has like 10 minutes really that is about Demi, and the rest is all actual ufologists or Nick Pope, who's the former Britain DoD UFO defense minister guy.
Right.
Like they have, and Brittany Barber, a ufologist. They've got really good people on there that are authenticated and educated and active in the field studies. And it's actually really, really good. It's like the first couple minutes of each show that deals with her and her sister and her friend, and that's about it. So as soon as they brush through that and they find out what they're doing that episode, it's all centralized about actual information and good information. So if you don't have Peacock, I highly suggest you get it, or figure out a way, ask your friends for their passwords, like Goose, to watch Unidentifiable by Demi Lovato.
Well, hey, my friend actually done better than that because he sent me the password and set me up a profile. And I will watch it. I promise I will watch it.
And then you also have to watch Project Bluebeam on there as well.
Now, I saw some of that when it was on, I can't remember what channel that was on.
HBO.
Was it HBO? Okay.
It used to be, yeah.
Okay. I thought it was on AMC too for some reason.
It might have been, but there was only one season. This has multiple seasons.
Okay. That was Project Blue Book that was on AMC. So, okay. And I will definitely check that out.
Now,
you answer Kenneth.
Kenneth, first, I'd like to say, good friends. A+ to them. Go take them out for a drink of choice for turning you on to us. They're good friends. Don't ever forget that. Second, my thoughts on the recent increase of UFO sightings is pretty much stemming from what Goose said, and kind of what I'm picking up. You're kind of hinting at is everybody's forced inside. They're binge watching till boredom, and I know a lot of people were normally busy in their quote unquote ordinary everyday lives that never really probably took the time to think about this, or never really thought much about it, or even maybe skeptics. And this gave them a chance to dive down rabbit holes. I've seen a whole bunch of advertisements for different sci-fi and UFO shows that have come out in the last year and a half. And I think it's forced people to actually go outside and look up and wonder, is there something really else out there? Are we alone? And I think that people are genuinely curious and are possibly almost scared. And so every little thing they see, because not everybody knows what a satellite looks like. Not everybody knows what an aircraft at altitude cruising looks like. I do think a lot of it is not real. It's already stuff that's up there all the time that people just haven't bothered to look at before. However, I still do believe UFOs, UAPs, USOs, whatever you want to call them, are real. And I don't think the government shut down that to increase that. I think they probably didn't even think about that or hoped that it would be the exact opposite, because they clearly don't like having to ever disclose any useful or reliable information regarding that subject.
You are correct. The next email is from Reed. Hello, Reed. Thanks for writing in. He says, hello, Goose and Dirty Dan. If you were leaving your house due to a catastrophic event, what's 2 things that you'd take with you and why? Roswell. I would take ammo and a weapon.
Now, would you take the ammo for that weapon?
Yes.
Or
Yes.
just ammo and a weapon?
Yes. Yes, I would. I would take ammo for that weapon. What about you?
I'm going to go still with part of my answer from the podcast, which is my
Empty
water
bags.
repellent.
Empty bags.
Water repellent.
Okay.
Large army bag, because worst comes to worst, that's canvas. It can be used for shelter. It can be used for storage. It can be used for hiding from the elements. It can be used to gather wood or anything.
So
and I'm going to bring my survival knife kit, which has a large K-bar style blade with a deer hook. It's got serrations on there. It's got a little compass built into it. It's got a little stand. It's got a magnesium bar in there as well, so it can chop wood, food, start fire, all that.
So you thought about this a little bit more since yesterday. Good. Because yesterday you said 2 empty bags.
Yeah. And I'm still taking one of them.
Well, let me ask you a question. When you go on a trip, do you is your suitcase a series of dollar store or Walmart bags?
Neither. It's that Green Army bag.
I'm just joking with you, Dirty Dan. Thank you very much, Reed, for writing in. Dirty Dan.
Yes, thank you, Reed.
You got
so
the next
up, we have Tara. Greetings. My name is Tara, and I just wanted to say hello and introduce myself. Hello, Tara. Nice to meet you. I'm Dirty Dan. I'm new to the show and discovered you on the radio. I've listened to some of your podcast shows, and I can see that you put a lot of work into the show. The last show that I listened to was a roundtable show. When is the next one going to be? Bye for now, Tara.
Sometime in December.
Sometime in December, Tara.
Yes.
That's when the next roundtable will be.
Maybe the second or third week in December, we'll have a roundtable.
But I'm glad you found us on the radio, and I'm even more glad that you came over and checked us out for our full shows.
Yes, me too. Me too. I love doing the roundtables. They're so much fun.
I do too. And, that group message that was going around.
Yeah, it was going around like, well, I didn't see it when I saw it this morning when I got up at 6 o'clock. But
all I'm saying is the fans could really have a true Dirty Dan experience.
I don't know if the fans are ready for the true Dirty Dan experience. Maybe they are. Maybe they are.
I mean, I know one fan that would be.
Yeah. Well, I know more
and
than
if y'all want to know who we're talking about, come on over to the podcast.
I know another fan that would be. I think my mom would be.
I bet your mom would be too.
Yeah.
And she'd be the perfect one to have a picture to put my slogan under.
Yeah, well, now my mom is just like 5'1". She may be 5'2". So
I'm 16 inches taller than her.
Yeah, she was taller than my dad because my dad was 4'11". So she might be 5'2" because she was like 2 or 3 inches taller than him. On to the next email. Mike says, hey, Goose and Dirty Dan, happy October and happy anniversary. With the show being in existence for a year, is there anything that you wished you'd done different the first year that you didn't get a chance to do? I'll listen for your answer, Roswell, to all. I wish that COVID hadn't hit. And yes, I don't know where hitting come from. I wish COVID hadn't hit and we had more chances to take the show on the road. Hopefully next year we'll be doing a lot more traveling with the show and even doing some video. We'll always drop the podcast on Sunday. We'll always do the radio shows, but we'll also be having some videos on our social media and YouTube page and so forth. So I wish we got to travel, and we really didn't get to do that. We got to go to the Pikeville Comic and Toy Con, and I wish we got to go to more places than that. But I'm very grateful that Kent did invite us to the Comic and Toy Con.
And that was a heck of an interview we had with him on the radio show.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Dirty Dan, next one's yours, my friend.
Oh, I don't get the answer?
Yes, please answer.
I wish you would have found my wife sooner so I could have come on the show sooner.
Hey, dude, people kept saying you need TikTok for the show. You need TikTok for the show. So I actually downloaded it in March. I didn't really start watching it till a couple of weeks later, like maybe in towards the end of April. Might have been a month later. And, see, I do watch stuff. I just stay very busy at the Cookie Factory and with the show. And, but yeah, you're right. Dirty Dan, the next email is from you, or for you, and it's from Scott.
Yeah. As Goose mentioned, it is Scott writing, and he says, hello, Goose and Dirty Dan. Do you know anything more about what is on the internet about the Serpo project? I can't seem to find out anything. Any help is greatly appreciated, Roswell. Scott, let me tell you, this is what Goose and I have talked about several times, being in sync with our listeners, because I have not one, but 2 separate articles for tonight's show on the Serpo project.
Now, did you have these out and ready before I messaged you the email?
Yes, I did, because Rebecca looked at me yesterday.
Way to go.
I wanted to do one for the podcast, and I'm like, well, based on what Goose has in the format, it's not going to fit in.
So, yeah. Now, and our format is changed a little bit for the month of October because we're helping celebrate Halloween and so forth. And but we will get back, once we're out of October, we'll get back to styling and profiling, talk about UFO flying, time traveling.
But since my week last week was the spooky stuff,
yes,
and this week I've gone back to the other, it fits perfectly in with it.
Yes, it does. And that is a very interesting project, too, because even if you look at the book, it says in big bold letters, this is based on a true story. So,
yeah, well, and the fun part for me is that I have one that's actually from serpo.org.
Okay.
I have the actual program layout.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if awesome's the word, but it's interesting.
Well, I mean, and in all honesty, we'll talk about it here on the radio show, but that might be something we need to save for a future podcast episode as well.
Oh, sir, I have 5 other articles related to it as
well.
There's
so much information on that is what I'm saying. So, but yes, Scott, stick around, and we will have that for you coming up in some segments. The last email is from Espy, and I'm going to try not to laugh when I read this email. First, thank you very much, Espy, for writing in. To everyone who is listening, I am involved with and in contact with aliens. I appear normal. I'm sorry, Espy.
So much for that.
Let me start all over and try that again. To everyone who is listening in, I am involved with and in contact with aliens. I appear normal to everyone else, but I have been recruited by another life form. They have instructed me to seek any and all information that I can. I will do this. If any listeners of this show has knowledge of advanced technology, please post about it on Reddit. And that one was from Espy, E-S-P-Y. I guess
Espy, I got to ask, is that like an espionage gypsy mix? Like, are you a spy gypsy? Are you just roaming around galaxy to galaxy, being a spy for the aliens? Like,
give me your technology. Tell me about your technology.
All I can think of is James West or Will Smith singing a line from the Wild Wild West is, you don't want to see my hair with my hippie at.
Well, Espy, I do want to tell you something, my friend, and nobody has ever figured this out. There's just one thing in technology. We have something called a refrigerator. Yeah. Now, when you open it up, there's a light that comes on.
Mm-hmm.
No one really knows if that light stays on the whole time when the door is shut.
False.
But is there a little man living inside the refrigerator that when you shut the door, he comes back out and turns the light off? And when you open it back up, he turns it back on. Check into that.
It's not a man. It's not a man.
Oh, it's not? What is it?
So I stuck my phone in on record and propped it up.
I've never thought about that. Was the light still on?
No, it gets turned off, but it's not instantaneously. It's a half goat, half hamster.
Oh, gosh. SB, we just let that out of the bag. We hope that helps you.
I found that idea on Reddit.
I like that. I found that idea on Reddit. We want to thank all of our listeners that wrote emails in. And you can always call, text, or leave a voicemail by calling 606-373-3396. That's 606-373-3396. Or they can email. How can they email us, Dirty Dan?
You can email Goose at HereToChewBubblegum.com, Dirty Dan at HereToChewBubblegum.com, and Rebecca at HereToChewBubblegum.com. Or you can just email into the show, Ned or Elliot at HereToChewBubblegum at Yahoo.com.
We're going to take a quick break, have a Kentucky spooky story, and when we come back in segment 1, we're going to have some news. Dirty Dan's going to have some. What are you going to be talking about in segment 1?
So the first one I want to get out of the way is a Bigfoot sighting story.
Oh, okay. Now that is something that we don't talk about a lot, but we have had people wanting us to talk about that. And you're listening to Here to Chew Bubblegum. We'll be back in just a moment.
Are you a horror movie fan?
Yeah, I dig horror movies.
Are you searching for a great internet horror talk radio show to listen to?
Why, sure, that sounds quite spiffy.
Then you need to tune into deadpit.com. It's the original horror talk radio show. Dead Pit is a show by the fans and for the fans. Uncensored and unbiased opinions are the goal of the show, giving fans honest reviews on new films and vintage classics of the horror genre. Make deadpit.com your #1 horror station destination.
It's now time for a Kentucky spooky story with Mercedes.
The Witch Tree. There is a spot in Alexandria where a tree once stood, and the tale states 3 witches were killed. In a fork in the road, the tree had been removed, but 3 humps still remain. They are said to signify the graves of the 3 witches who died there.
You've been listening to a Kentucky spooky story with Mercedes.
Take a lighter look into the darker side of the world. Join Elliot, Gertie, and Beagle as they jump into the dark abyss of hauntings, fables, UFOs, and beyond. The Spooky Family Podcast. You can find them where you listen to quality podcasts.
And welcome back to Here to Chew Bubblegum with your favorite hosts, Goose and Dirty Dan.
Well, thank you very much, Dirty Dan, my friend. We're going to start out with some news. A solar storm expected to hit Earth that could make the northern lights visible in New York. If you were traveling last week on Monday, October the 11th, and you were in places that had power trouble or you thought you saw something in the sky, don't be alarmed. The NewYorkPost.com says, "Get ready, Earthlings. The sun is expected to wreak havoc on our planet." And this happened on Monday, October the 11th. An enormous solar flare that could disrupt power grids, affect spacecraft, and make the northern lights visible in New York. The national
Goose.
Yes, sir.
Tell Texas the power grid might go down again.
Yeah. Well, we didn't have anything back here. Did
because
you
we're
have
used to
anything?
the cold.
So, yeah, there you go. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration has issued a G2 or moderate geomagnetic storm watch due to an anticipated arrival of the CME, that is a coronal mass ejection. Among all the possible effects of the sudden flash of increased brightness from our 93 million miles away sun are power grid fluctuations, voltage alarms at higher latitudes, spacecraft orientations, irregularities, and increased drag on low Earth. The NOAA's Space Weather Prediction Center said, but the most spectacular outcome of the massive CME could be that the polar lights are normally visible in the high altitude regions of Earth, but may be visible as low as New York to Wisconsin to Washington State, the advisory said. The event analysis and model output suggest the CME arrival time was on midday, October the 11th, and it lingered until October 12th, NOAA said, referring to October 12th, late afternoon in the United States. Moving on, the biggest comet ever discovered is about to cruise by Earth. From Futurism publication says a giant comet that astronomers have confirmed the existence of a gigantic comet, and they say it's headed towards Earth. The comet was discovered by University of Pennsylvania astronomers Pedro Bertinelli and Gary Bernstein. The pair initially found the evidence of 62 100-mile wide comet 7 years ago and have finally released a paper confirming it late this month in the Journal of Astrophysical Journal Letters. Dubbed the BB comet, perhaps the most discouraging is the fact that the comet is headed towards Earth for a return journey that began during the original astronomical events that created our planet billions of years ago. In fact, its next close approach to us will be in 2031, but luckily for us, it's well out of reach, cruising between the orbits of Uranus and Saturn. William Shatner, we told you last week that he's going to be going on the Blue Origin space thing. William Shatner says that he's terrified ahead of the flight on the Blue Origin. Captain Kirk is experiencing some pre-flight jitters. Days after the news broke that William Shatner would reach space with the Blue Origin, the Star Trek actor admitted that he's experiencing some pre-flight jitters. During a panel on Thursday, October 7th at New York City Comic Con, Shatner said his feelings ahead of the Blue Origin mission and talked about the importance of civilian initiatives like these suborbital flights. But his excitement doesn't mean the nerves aren't setting in. I'm terrified, Shatner said. I know I'm Captain Bloody Kirk, and I'm terrified. And the last thing that we have here is NASA administrator says the first SLL launch is unlikely until 2022. Recently, a NASA administrator said he has no firm launch date for the Space Launch System, also known as the SLS. However, the administrator said that NASA would soon set a target date and that the target would likely be early 2022. Another NASA administrator, Bob Cavanagh, recently participated in the Maryland Space Business Roundtable webinar that was held on September 30th. At the event, Cavanagh talked about the launch of Artemis 1. The administrator said no firm launch date has been decided on or suggested, but it was unlikely to happen before the end of 2021. Cavanagh said that NASA was hopeful they would have a firm launch date after next week, but it's not expected until early next year. NASA hoped Artemis 1 would launch before the end of the year. Dirty Dan, I'm going to turn it over to you, my friend, so you can tell us about Bigfoot.
I just got one question.
Yes.
Is Shatner actually going to go into space, or is he just going to touch the edge of it again?
They're supposedly supposed to go into space this time.
Yeah, I'm sure the FAA will increase the ceiling again just to keep that phallic out.
Probably.
All right. So, Goose, this comes from Kentucky.
Yes, sir.
We can now officially add Kentucky to the list containing Idaho, Michigan, Oregon, the Florida Panhandle, Northern California, Oklahoma, North Carolina, and West to our list of possible home bases for the ever elusive Bigfoot. They're on to me, buddy. If a new report can be believed, that is. The latest Bigfoot sighting occurred in a location in Kentucky where one expert with over 20 alleged years experience on the subject says is no doubt home to the Bigfoot. The person, who I will not name, that saw these two Bigfoot, not just one but two, go into a mine is a really good guy and is not a storyteller, writes Thomas Markham of the Crypto Crew in his report. He has not told but a handful of people about what he saw. The man is a friend of mine in our family, just I don't get to talk to him every often. Once I get the location details, I used Google Maps to kind of scope out the area to get a direction I wanted to explore first. I missed my mark and had to backtrack for about a mile or more, but I did finally find the location. Markham continues, these tracks, while lacking a lot of definition, were larger and much, much wider than my size 12 boot. So cute, just a size 12. These were in a straight line with the exception of one track at the top of the bank. This could have been a slight sidestep to maneuver over the hump in front of the mine opening. I don't know. This opening may be used more at different times of the year. It's just hard to say. I do not know that Bigfoot is smart enough to know when an area has increased human activity in it. So maybe this time of the year, they use this opening a bit less. Right now, we have people ginseng hunting, squirrel hunting, and deer hunting. But even with all that, this area does not see a high volume of people in it due to it being a rough area and you have to walk. You can only take an ATV a short ways in and then it's on foot or you don't go. What is important, though, and I feel really backs up this report, is the fact that there has been other sightings and reports from this general area, Markham continued. In fact, just across the hollow from the coal mine is where I found the tree breaks and recorded the wood knock just a few days ago. Markham also points out that there was also a recent sighting of Bigfoot on another ridge across from this coal mine and is the same area where Bigfoot tracks have been discovered before. He concludes that this area is no doubt home to Bigfoot, he says, and he knows for a fact that there are several different groups of Bigfoot in this area. Charlie Raymond, founder of the Kentucky Bigfoot Research Organization, or KBRO, reported in 2020 that the state is third in the country for the most Bigfoot sightings. I have seen and found things that most people will never see or find, says Markham. Looks like we definitely need to stick a pin in Kentucky, especially the northwest mountains of the state, as a potential home for the ever-elusive cryptid.
Have you ever went out, or have you ever saw any shows where they've actually captured something that
You mean
was
like
that
Video?
video, hair samples, anything that wasn't explained later on in the episode?
Yes.
All right. What show was that?
It was on the History Channel, and I was about 15 or 16 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the name of the show. I can look it up though, and I will, and I'll bring that information back next week.
Do you think?
But I do remember them saying it looked like gorilla hair, but there is obviously no gorillas in this part of the country,
Right. That we know of.
and it was actually near a coal mine.
Uh-huh.
It was I don't know if you're familiar with Centralia,
Yes.
Pennsylvania,
Yes.
but it was in that area.
Have you actually been to that town?
Yes, I've been on the old highway many times, have many pictures of many of my vehicles on that. I've been through there.
Is there still just one person that lives there now?
Officially, it's now the family's estate because that person has passed on.
Okay.
They passed on back in I want to say 16 or 17.
Okay. So now will the government come in and take it from the...
No, because they left it to their family.
Got you.
And like they're actually were there when I drove through the last time.
That's cool. Did you stop and talk to them or?
Oh no, I have better things to do.
Okay. But there's only like structure wise, there was still just one house there, correct?
There's one house and the majority of the old post office.
What did it smell like with everything burning underground like that?
Well, the closest thing I can relate it to is death. Like it just stunk.
Oh, okay. Not like coal or gas or...
I mean, there was a sulfur smell, every time I go there, no matter what, it's always an overcast, rainy day.
Okay.
So all that dampness in the soil,
Yeah.
and just the damp grass, it like just take a giant pile of wet grass clippings and leaves and old tree limbs and light it on fire, and it's that smell plus sulfur, and that just kind of reminds me of death.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you? So you have been there. That's because that's a place when
Many
I
times.
first found out about it, I wanted to go visit, but never did. And by the time I remembered it, it was like 10 years. It's like from 2005 to 2015. In 2015, I looked, and there was, like you said, just part of the post office and one resident there at that time.
And I can tell you, after 2012, it started going downhill real bad. People have no respect for that place.
Yeah.
It's been vandalized. It's been graffitied. Like the first time I went, we actually drove through there for a scout trip, and we stopped on the way back, and there were still a lot of partial structures or like stuff that would be condemned that was still standing, but not in any livable shape or anything.
Right. Because I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No,
Actually,
go ahead.
I think in 2005, there might have been like 8 to 12
There's 12.
families still lived there. And
Yep.
then when I looked 10 years later, there was just one.
Including the mayor.
Well, she was the mayor, wasn't she? The last resident that was there? Oh, she wasn't? Oh, okay.
No, the official mayor of the town passed away in 2011 or 12. Late 11 or early 12.
Okay.
And it was just down to the mayor and that final resident. The mayor passed away. The resident passed away a couple of years later, and the family inherited that estate. I don't know if they use it as like a summer home or something or what. Looking back, I would have been smart to stop and talk. But I also don't know how many times they are bothered by people stopping.
Yeah, bothered by people. And you were talking about being vandalized. I don't see what somebody gets out of going to a place like that and vandalize stuff. That makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Growing up a history buff, I don't understand why anybody would go to a piece of this country's history and vandalize it for craps and giggles.
Yeah.
I don't understand that at all.
No.
I don't understand why you deface stuff. I don't understand why you destroy stuff. Just leave it be so that other people can enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, we're living in a new age now with
the ground is hot enough to still cook an egg in a frying pan though, sir.
Really? Just by
Yes.
putting the egg in the frying pan, setting it on the ground.
When I've done this with a group of my old friends. It was 2012. Put the frying pan on the ground for about 5 minutes, cracked an egg in it, and about 3-4 minutes later, it was done.
Wow. And that's Centralia, Pennsylvania, that Dirty Dan and myself are talking about. I'm going to talk briefly about this will be like a Halloween type subject. Scream, the movie. The first look photos reveal new and returning cast members. Neve Campbell joins several returning cast members and franchise newcomers in Scream, set to debut in movie theaters in January. I don't understand why they're putting a scary movie out in January, but hey, you know, I live in East Kentucky, not Hollywood. With
Christmas in July, buddy.
Yeah, there you go. With rumors of a trailer coming very soon, several first look photos have been released for the upcoming slasher sequel to Scream. This fifth installment of the popular Scream franchise, the new movie brings back several returning stars like Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, and David Arquette. While many newcomers are also joining the fold, everyone is up to potential new victims for Ghostface, unless they turn out to be the new incarnation of the masked killer. Also, if you are a fan of Scream, the original one, the Airbnb is renting out the Scream house used in the 1996 horror film. Get your Jiffy Pop ready. This October, Airbnb is giving horror fans a chance to stay at the home featured in the 1996 film Scream, and just for $5 per night. The house, located in Marion County, California, will reportedly be ready to explore in all its original glory, complete with Ghostface knife marks on the doors. According to Airbnb, once guests have toured the estate, they can settle in for a VHS movie marathon of movies like the Scream films, along with all the classic 90s favorite snack favorites, and they can handle Jiffy Pop. That is included. The Airbnb said that one of the home's phones is also a direct line to the Ghostface killer himself, although it may ring in a cryptic call from the killer too. The home will be available for a 3 one-night stay on October 27th, 29th, and 31st for a maximum of 4 guests each night. Fans can request to book the house via Airbnb starting on October 12th at 1 p.m. Those lucky enough to snag a reservation will begin their evening with a virtual check-in with Sheriff Dewey Riley, played as always by David Arquette, who will offer new words of warning ahead of the evening. As your host, I'll be keeping a watchful eye on guests to ensure no one gets surprised by an unexpected plot twist. Reads a statement attributed by Dewey in the Airbnb's press release. Trust me, horror movies always keep it interesting, for better or for worse. If survivors do survive the night, they may go home with a unique Scream merchandise, like the DVD bundle, gear from the fictional Woodsbury High School, and posters from the upcoming Scream film, which we just talked about. I'm a Scream fan, I guess, but, you know, from the first one, and the second one was actually pretty cool.
I like the second more.
I don't think that I would try to book the house just to, you know, I'd rather do my own thing. What about you? If you lived in California, would you try to book the Scream house? What do you got for us there, Dirty Dan?
All right. So the 2 pieces of the Serpo project Project Serpo I want to read was the most recent notable release, which comes from, let me pull the actual date here so I can speak correctly. The November 30th, 2015, which is titled The Untold Story, UN is capital, of EBE number 1 at Roswell. And then the second one I'm going to read is a kind of tech science question and answer addressed from the DIA 6. That was released August 5th of 2016. This has kind of become my new Ingersoll Lockwood site since the countdown clock was
okay.
So
you've moved on to greener pastures.
I don't know if it's greener, but it's intrigued me a little bit more lately.
There you go. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that, my friend.
So a little preface is Moderator's introductory notes for Project Serpo Release 36. In many ways, this release is far different than any of the previous 35 releases in two respects. One, there are 6 main sections, and each section could almost be a release in itself. For section 6, there are 10 subsections within it. So there are a total of 15 sections. Some are short, some are very lengthy. 5 sections plus 10 sections equals 15. I don't know why they do that. And the third item is some could almost be viewed as repeats almost of previous Serpo releases, except that the information is slightly different. So a close reading of comparison and contrast of almost the same identical info from previous posts is warranted and demanded. I'm only going to read the first main part of it because it's like size 2 font and it's about 98 feet long.
Gotcha.
Section 1, EB number 1, the untold story of its life after the Roswell crash of July 1947. As relayed by Anonymous 2. Ooh. EBE number 1 was found in the Roswell crash site near Corona, New Mexico. EBE number 1 was slightly hurt and quickly recovered from his wounds. EBE number 1 was the mechanic. He was able to communicate through pictures with Army personnel. They placed him in an isolation room at the Roswell Army Airfield, and in September of 1947, he was transferred to Kirkland Field and was again isolated in a medical unit. During this time, EBE number 1 worked with top military linguists. They were able to communicate with him by showing him photographs. They later developed symbols to communicate words. In linguistics, these are known as logograms or logographs. Eventually, number 1 was able to utilize these symbols to communicate his wants and needs. Number 1 was able to eat simple foods such as bread, fruits, pasta, salads, and cheese. However, meats caused him problems and he would vomit the meats up. EBE number 1 was examined by numerous medical doctors and scientists. They took skin samples, examined his bodily fluids, and conducted x-rays on him. They found that EBE number 1 had one primary organ that worked as his heart and lungs. The organ was combined. He had a simple digestion system. One organ worked as a stomach and one organ worked as his intestines. They could find no liver, pancreas, gallbladder. Apparently, EBE number 1's stomach acted as all of those organs, or he just didn't need them. Number 1 had small glands on his hands, arms, and legs, and these glands would enlarge at certain times. Scientists could not figure out what these glands were for, nor their use. Number 1 measured in at 4 feet 3 inches tall and weighed 60-ish pounds. His weight never varied, however, his height did. During the winter months, his height would increase by about 1 inch. His body generated heat by some means that our scientists could not determine. Number 1 wore a tight-fitting one-piece suit. That suit was all he needed to maintain his correct body heat. The suit was made of an elastic type material that retained warmth and kept out cold. EBE's body heat was an average of 101 degrees, which almost never varied. He was provided with a blanket, but he very rarely used it. The blood was light red, but contained very similar cells, such as red and white blood cells. The blood also contained numerous things our scientists could not identify. Number 1's body did not require a large quantity of water or fluids either. He was able to extract the fluids required to maintain his proper levels through the breakdown of food. His body was able to somehow determine the correct amount of fluids required and eliminate the remaining unused fluids. It was determined that eating was not a pleasurable activity for number 1, but rather a necessity. Number 1 was always calm, kind, and very considerate. He never got excited, rude, nor was mean-spirited. He was very social, even though he couldn't understand others around him, nor could they him. He liked to touch people and learned that holding a human hand was a common social practice. He was very docile. Even when scientists were poking and examining him, he seemed to understand as he just let them go about their business. He always seemed willing to communicate or attempted to communicate, and he quickly learned the symbols system and eventually learned our language in a very, very simple way. In 1950, number 1 was moved to a special facility created for him at the Los Alamos National Laboratory. He lived in a little 3-room apartment, and his handler, who was assigned to him in 1949, joined and lived with him in that apartment. They became such great companions that neither wanted to separate. It was found that EBE number 1 could not speak our language because of the lack of vocal cords in his throat. They even communicated via tonal inflections amongst themselves normally, and a brilliant doctor developed a device that was implanted into EBE number 1's throat, which allowed him to speak English. Although crude, he was able to eventually learn to speak simple sentences and eventually communicate through English to his handler. During the entire time number 1 was alive, he had medical problems. He developed a rash on his body that irritated. Several different medicines were tried, and eventually the rash went away. However, number 1 developed a cough that seemed to be connected to a food allergy. They found that certain fruits would cause a cough. Eventually, the cough subsided, but he was left with a sore throat. Number one was shown the items recovered in the Roswell crash site. Number one was able to teach us how to utilize the communication and energy devices, and we also found a medical kit which contained small injectable tubes. Number one didn't know what each item was for, but he explained they were for injuries. Scientists experimented and determined each tube contained a chemical substance, but unable to find the breakdown for what they were cautious not to use them on number one, for they feared they would do more harm than good.
Project, what was it now?
Project Serpo.
Project Serpo. Is it Serpo or Serpa?
Serpo. SERPO.
Serpo. Yeah, I mean, I've studied that a little bit. We may have talked about it just a little bit on the show before.
It was before my time, sir.
Yes, it was. We're going to. Do you have anything else, or can we take a quick break?
Oh, we can take a break and we can come back with a question and answer.
Okay. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to have the mysterious Appalachian Mountains with Seth, and we'll be back. You're listening to Here to Chew Bubblegum.
Welcome to the mysterious Appalachian Mountains with Seth and Earl here on Here to Chew Bubblegum. Definitely want to thank Here to Chew Bubblegum for having us on. And filling in for Earl will be Junebug. How are you doing tonight, man?
Hey, what's going on, brother?
Doing good, man. And this is episode 3. And if you want to send us an email for a story you want us to read, send an email to seth.ambergy14@gmail.com. And we'll read your story here on the air, and we'll give our opinion on it. Okay, now this is going to be a funny story right here I'm reading about in Morgan County, Kentucky. Local drunk sees Bigfoot. Date of encounter was 1995 in West Liberty, Morgan County. How long, the interviewer asked, how long did the encounter last? And they said 30 seconds. This is actually a secondhand story, so somebody else told it. It says, secondhand story. A local described an encounter of walking in a remote part of Daniel Boone National Forest. As he quietly walking through thick forest, he stops and sees a Bigfoot staring at him from an elevated position at approximately 80 yards. Frozen with fear, the witness sees the creature quickly move over the ridge. The witness quickly leaves, trying to find where the area. Sadly, the witness is a known drunk. His encounter has been discredited by all that know him. True or false, who knows? And then it says describe how tall the creature was, and they said over 7 foot, covered with brown hair. And additional info, the area is rough and rugged. And that's the story, man. So what is your opinion on that?
That's makes you wonder about the drunk. I don't know if it will be believable or not.
Yeah, I don't think this one is real for sure, man. As you can see in the story, a lot of people was discredit him for sure. They absolutely didn't think that he was telling the truth.
It's like the drunk that was in Richmond shooting at aliens the other day. Goose and Dirty Dan were talking about on their show the other day.
Really, man?
A lot of drunks in the news lately.
Well, I mean that we are here in the Appalachian Mountains, man. That happens a lot. I mean, I'm sure you never know. This might have been somebody messing with him in an ape costume.
Could have been.
Absolutely, man. And Junebug, tell the people about your podcast.
I have a little show called In Dark Places. Been on with Goose before. I didn't get to meet Dirty Dan. He was sick that day or something. But I went over and hung out with Goose, and we talked some UFOs and stuff. It's pretty cool. In Dark Places, we've got right around 3,000 downloads right now. Been going since March. So we're starting to slowly build up, and it's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely, man. And this has been the mysterious Appalachian Mountains with Seth and Earl. And filling in for Earl is Junebug from In Dark Places. Definitely want to thank you for filling in for Earl. And yeah, man, like I said, if you guys have a story that you want us to read on the air and give our opinion on it, send an email to seth.amberg14@gmail.com. And yeah, I want to thank you guys for listening. I want to thank Here at Your Bubblegum for having us on. Y'all have a good night, and God bless.
Goose and Dirty Dan. Give the guys a break. They're not that bright.
And you're still listening to Here to Chew Bubblegum with your favorite co-hosts, Goose and Dirty Dan.
I am back. And Dirty Dan, you're talking about Project Serpo, and we're going to pick up next week on that.
What are your thoughts on that story? Does that sound realistic to you?
Well, it says it's based on a true story. I would like to dig into it a little bit more.
Serpo.org.
Yeah.
Those documents are on there.
Okay. So you've actually saw those. See, I saw those a couple of years ago.
I feel anonymous too, from what I've been able to put together, that at the time this was released was a 75-year-old retired lieutenant colonel.
Right.
That remained anonymous. But I feel like it honestly would be true, just because, like we mentioned a couple episodes ago about all these deathbed confessions coming out from these guys around this time, because of how sketchy, for lack of a better term, the government and its organizations have been since it happened, from the initial press release to the redacted press release to everything else that's followed up to the latest. I feel like this is just another thing that eventually, and there are some pictures on here that they cannot confirm or deny are models or recreations. Some are, some you can tell that are modern pictures, but there are older pictures on this website that were definitely not the best camera technology, that are definitely old. They have definitely weathered and faded, and it does not say all it says is unconfirmed.
Right. Well, you know, I look forward to picking back up with it next week. I'm going to talk real quickly about, and if you've got something else short there, bring it up. Got it took care of. Popculture.com reports that a new Netflix film is being met with rave reviews from customers who are binging it in time for Halloween. Throughout October, the streamer has been debuting plenty of new spooky titles, perfect for the month, but it's an adaptation of author's Stephanie Perkins' horror novel, There's Someone Inside Your House, that has generated not only plenty of scares, but also plenty of views, helping the slasher movie land a spot on the top 10 streaming charts. Directed by Patrick Bryce, There's Someone Inside Your House follows a student who moves from Hawaii to a quiet small town in Nebraska to live with her grandmother and finish high school. Her life is anything but quiet, though, when she and her classmates begin to be stalked and murdered by a killer who wears masks of their faces when he or she comes to slaughter them. The slayer's motivation is that each of the victims is hiding a terrible, seemingly secret that they don't want out, but the murderer is going to reveal them anyway. It made its Netflix debut on October 6th of the streamer's Netflix and Chills lineup. If you're looking for something good to watch this Halloween, be sure to check that out. You don't have Netflix anymore, do you?
No, as soon as they got rid of The Office, we said nay to Netflix.
I don't blame you. I've had it so long. I don't really know how to cancel it, to be honest with you. No, I do know how to cancel it. That was a joke.
It took me about 6.5 hours over the span of 2 phone calls to get it canceled.
Really? You just couldn't go online and cancel it?
Nope.
And we've talked before. Your go-to, when Elliot called in last week, your go-to Halloween movie, is it really The Ring?
Yeah.
Really?
I love that movie just because, what was it made in 2006?
Yeah. About that.
I honestly, like, when you just break it down, you don't watch it just to watch a movie, but you actually break it down and analyze it for creative content and graphics and storyline. Like, if you actually just break it down into chunks, I still think it's better than most modern movies that have come out, because at the end of it, when you look at it, it's not it's not been overproduced. It wasn't overthought. It was a consistent, easy to follow along plot. And there was there was excellent highs that immediately followed all of the low lows when it would die out.
Yeah. That makes sense. You're a smart man, my friend. Has anybody ever told you that?
Just a couple people, but normally there's a 3-letter word that follows.
Okay. I want to thank everyone for listening. Don't forget our anniversary show, episode 51, is up now on all major platforms, Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Google Podcast, anywhere you find top quality podcast. You can always call, text, or leave a voicemail by calling 606-373-3396. Or how can they email us, Dirty Dan?
They can email us goose@heretechewbubblegum.com, Dirty Dan at heretechewbubblegum.com, and Rebecca at heretechewbubblegum.com, or the show Ned or Elliot at heretechewbubblegum@yahoo.com.
That is correct. And tell us about the group that you're talking about this month, Dirty Dan.
Well, as you noticed earlier, I am rocking one of their shirts.
Yes, I did.
And for the next few episodes, we will still be talking about and recognizing the group with their amazing work called the Till Valhalla Project. They were established in 2017, rocking the slogan, "Where heroes live on forever," under their wonderful tribute of a logo. The TVP team is all about bringing and spreading awareness to help our vets and soldiers' needs, the ones who devote and sacrifice their time to protect our lives and our freedoms so we can do things like this show on our podcast. And sometimes, and all too much, unfortunately, the ones that give the ultimate sacrifice, their own lives for us. Julia is quoted saying, "Our mission is to do whatever it takes, anything to get our name out and our purpose to the masses." The sale of these products, of course, will help make a difference, but it's the conversations and the awareness that they bring to lessen the 22 a day plus one active duty death or suicide that is more significant than any monetary donation. We need to support each other, most notably our brothers and sisters and families left behind. And starting in 2019, they ramped up their donations an additional 20% of net proceeds towards that suicide cause. And as of about a month ago now, they broke the $1 million mark in under 2 full years.
That is awesome.
And folks, it's not just about the vets. It's not just about the active duty. They are a true believer of ending all suicide. I had a shirt on last week that said, "I can't promise to fix your problems, but I can promise you won't face them alone. End all suicide." It is a very near and dear cause to my heart, and I know Goose's heart, and a lot more people than they might want to admit. So go to tillvalhallaproject.com. That's TILVALHALLA project.com. You can donate, you can tip, you can buy merch, you can just write a message to them and volunteer. Just give back some way if you can, in any way you can. It's always for a good cause, because I guarantee that 9 out of 10 people out there have been affected by a suicide in one way, shape, or form.
Very well said.
Check them out. And then, folks, don't forget to go check out AWP, Adventures with Purpose, on YouTube, and adventureswithpurpose.com.
I want to say special thanks to Carlin for all the voiceover work. Don't forget about the new Midlife Crisis album out now. And be sure to check out and support our friends with their own shows. I'm talking about CK and Uncle Bill over at deadpit.com, Justin Perkins with Talk Junkie, Jordan and Brad of Down on the Holler, Seth Ambergy with Seth's Daily Podcast. And he does have a new online station up and running. We will bring you that information next week. Elliot, Gertie, and Beagle over at the Spooky Family Podcast.com and the Mountain Mystery Podcast with Chris Sloan. Don't forget about Cronkite, Snowman, and Large Marge over at Paranormal Trucker. You can find them on YouTube. And if you want to awaken more, check out Rebecca Short on TikTok and Honest Rebecca Thoughts on Twitch. That'll do it for this week. We'll see you next week. And until then, so long for now.
Maybe I'm not leaving. Maybe I'm just going home.
Thanks for listening to Here to Chew Bubblegum. Tune in next time as we dive deeper into things the government doesn't want us to know.